A full circle of hope. One winter morning, the hospital invited them back for a special ceremony. Standing in front of hundreds of doctors, nurses, and families, Sarah and Michael watched their once microscopic children take the stage. Emma spoke first, her voice steady and warm. 15 years ago, this hospital saved our lives. Today, we want to help save others. Ethan smiled beside her. We used to be called the smallest twins in the world, he said. But what we've learned is that being small doesn't mean being weak. It means being closer to the heart of miracles. The room erupted in applause. Many were crying. Nurse Linda, now gray-haired, hugged them both and whispered. You two were my favorite miracle. And now, you're helping create new ones. Epilogue, what happened to them now? Today, Emma and Ethan Thompson are 21 years old. They're attending college in New York City, Emma studying fine arts, Ethan pursuing biomedical engineering. They still run Tiny Miracles, which has grown into an international foundation helping thousands of premature infants worldwide. The twins continue to visit hospitals, sometimes quietly, without cameras, just to hold a worried parent's hand and say, "We understand. And we promise, miracles still happen." Their story remains one of resilience, not because they defied science, but because they showed the world that love, faith, and kindness can create miracles where medicine stops. When people ask Sarah how she managed through it all, she always gives the same soft smile and says, "I didn't. They did. They taught us what it means to never give up." And every time Emma and Ethan hear that, they smile too, because they know that even though they started life as the smallest twins in the world, their journey became something much greater, reminder that the human heart, no matter how small, can change the world. Sparkle's moral of the story. Miracles don't always come in grand gestures, they often arrive in tiny packages, wrapped in courage, love, and faith. An act of kindness that changed everything. One day, when the twins were 12, they learned about a newborn baby in the same New York hospital, another preemie, fighting for life just as they had. Without hesitation, Emma and Ethan asked their parents if they could visit. The hospital agreed, carefully arranging a small meeting. When the twins entered the NICU, the nurses who once cared for them were there, older, teary-eyed, filled with disbelief and pride. They stood beside the tiny incubator and looked down at the struggling baby. Emma reached out her small hand, gently touching the glass. "Hey there, little one," she whispered, "don't be scared. You can do this." We did. Ethan placed a small stuffed bear beside the baby's incubator. It was one of the toys he'd had since his own NICU days, faded, but full of memories. The nurses cried quietly. One of them later said, "That moment reminded us why we do what we do." It felt like hope came full circle. The story went viral once more, the world's smallest twins returning to inspire the next smallest fighter. 15 years later. By the time they turned 15, Emma and Ethan had become national symbols of resilience. They spoke at schools, hospitals, and charity events. Ethan, still smaller than most kids his age, had a voice full of calm wisdom. "Size doesn't define your strength," he would say. "Love does." Emma, vibrant and artistic, painted murals across children's hospitals, colorful depictions of stars, hearts, and tiny footprints leading to the sky. Her art became a message of faith and courage. Together, they founded a small non-profit organization, Tiny Miracles. It provided emotional and financial support to families with premature babies, ensuring no parent felt alone in the fight. Their first fundraising campaign raised enough to buy state-of-the-art incubators for their old hospital. Each one was engraved with a quote chosen by the twins. "The smallest hearts can make the biggest difference. The world falls in love." The day they left the hospital, cameras waited outside. Reporters wanted to capture the miracle, to show the world the smallest babies ever to survive such odds. "They're proof that hope is stronger than fear," Michael told one reporter, tears glistening in his eyes. The video went viral overnight. Millions watched, cried, and shared their story. Donations poured in from around the world to help with medical costs. Letters arrived daily, handwritten notes from strangers saying the twins had inspired them not to give up. It was as if the world had adopted Emma and Ethan as their own. Years later. The fight continues. But the journey didn't end there. Growing up as the smallest twins in the world wasn't easy. Emma and Ethan were fragile, often sick, and always catching up to milestones other children reached naturally. By age 6, they still had physical therapy daily. Other kids ran freely in playgrounds, they moved cautiously, their tiny legs trembling with every step. Sarah sometimes cried in silence, feeling guilty for every struggle they faced. But Michael would gently remind her. They were born to fight. And they'll keep showing the world what strength looks like. Despite their size, the twins had enormous spirits. Emma loved painting rainbows on every piece of paper she could find. Ethan dreamed of becoming a pilot, even though he'd never been on a plane. They were inseparable, two halves of one soul, always holding hands wherever they went. The turning point. When the twins turned 10, a documentary team approached the family. They wanted to make a follow-up story, 10 years later, the smallest twins who changed the world. At first, Sarah hesitated. She didn't want her children to feel like exhibits. But Emma and Ethan wanted to do it. "We want people to see what love can do," Emma said, her eyes shining. The documentary showed their daily life, therapy sessions, hospital visits, but also laughter, school projects, and their unbreakable bond. It ended with a simple message from Ethan. "We might be small, but our hearts are big enough for the world." When the film aired, something magical happened again. Millions watched, and this time, it wasn't just about survival. It was about hope, kindness, and courage. A woman from California, who had lost her premature baby years before, wrote to Sarah. "Your children healed something in me I didn't know was still broken. Remember the smallest twins in the world? Here's what happened to them now." When the news first broke, the world stopped for a moment. Smallest twins in the world born in New York City, each weighing less than a soda can. Those were the headlines that filled every news channel, every social feed, every heart with a mix of awe and fear. Doctors said they wouldn't survive the night. But somehow, the twins, Emma and Ethan, did. The beginning of a miracle. Their parents, Sarah and Michael Thompson, were an ordinary couple living in Brooklyn. Sarah was a school teacher, Michael, a struggling freelance photographer. They had prayed for a child for years, and when they found out they were expecting twins, it felt like a divine blessing. But that joy turned to panic when Sarah went into labor at just 23 weeks. The delivery room was silent except for the faint, fragile cries that sounded more like whispers than wails. The twins were so small that they fit in the palms of the doctor's hands. Their skin was nearly translucent, their hearts fluttering like hummingbirds. The doctor looked at Sarah with soft eyes and said, "We'll do everything we can, but you should prepare yourself." Sarah refused to hear those words. She gripped Michael's hand and whispered, "No, they're fighters. I know it. They'll make it." The longest nights. The NICU became their world. The twins were wrapped in clear incubators, surrounded by machines that beeped like mechanical lullabies. For months, Sarah and Michael barely slept. Sarah spent her nights reading aloud fairy tales through the glass, her voice trembling but steady. Every day was a battle, an infection, a drop in oxygen, a new emergency. But somehow, every night, those two little hearts kept beating. Nurses started calling them the miracle twins. One of them, a gentle woman named Nurse Linda, often said, "They're teaching us what strength really means." As weeks turned into months, the hospital became a second home. The doctors, once cautious and clinical, began to smile when they entered the room. The twins were growing, tiny, but growing. And then, one bright spring morning, the impossible happened. After 142 days, Emma and Ethan were strong enough to go home.